ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम तत्सत्। We are studying here Sri Ramakrishna Leelaprasanga, fifth part, the master in divine mood and Narendranath, and we are studying the ninth chapter. And ninth chapter is the circle of devotees and Narendranath. Up till now, only once Narendra's name has come here. And that is according to the fitness. Something used to happen when Thakur used to touch them. In that, Narendra had the Purvabhas of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Up till now, Narendra's name has not come. And boys, householders, common man, all these we have seen in great detail. And main point was that Thakur used to be like that devotee when in that state and in that level. And we have seen Balaram most detail. Now Narendra comes. Because circle of devotees and Narendranath. So now that Narendranath comes. After the full circle has been described, that those who had not seen in the vision, those who have seen in the vision, all that. So we have to read now para 12. The master gave Narendra the highest place among the devotees. So first narration and then example. Words fail us to express how high a station the master gave to Narendra, even among the special devotees seen by him in visions, let alone the ordinary class of devotees, the newcomers. So newcomers, ordinary devotees are left far behind, where they chosen when Thakur had seen them in the vision. Among them, Narendra gave very high position. And in the epilogue we had read in the first chapter, that 7 divisions of this Divya Bhava, Thakur's. And in that it was mentioned that after he gave Nirvikal Samadhi to Narendra, and after that he gave him the charge of his work and of the boys. And he trained him specially for that purpose. Now here that point has yet to come. So now let us see. Why he gave? Because of his capabilities. Pointing, but pointing out होगा ना ये? Pointing out होगा ये, not but. Some small misprints are there. Pointing out some among the devotees previously seen in visions from that sum. He said they are Ishwar Kotis. In other words, they have been born in this world to accomplish a particular work of the Divine Lord. Actually, technically, sadhana samjaya is discussed in the first part of the Prasanga. Different name for them. Adhikarik Purush. If somebody has come in charge of some work, he is called the Adhikarik Purush. But here he is putting Ishwar Kotis. So if you want, we can divide them in the Bengali or otherwise. अन्य कয়েক জন ইয়াদিকের মধ্যে কয়েকজনকে নির্দেশ করে মানে not all those who have seen তিনি বলেছেন ইহারা ঈশ্বর কোটি अथवा now this अथवा is equivalent of ঈশ্বর কোটি or a second category अथवा कार्य विशेष साधन करिवार निमित्त संसारे जन्म प्रयोग करियाছে I want to discuss a little about Ishwar Koti. Because Bhavanath Thakur called as Ishwar Koti. Purna was called as Ishwar Koti. Now what were Purna did in this world? Nothing. Except he was an ideal householder. So these two should be separate. I am offering my opinion, my judgment rather. Now, what is the meaning of Ishwar Kotis? Have you discussed sometime? No. You see, we are individuals, where our body and mind is an individual body and mind, Veshti. Now, there are some whose bodies are like us, but whose mind are universal. That is Ishwar Koti. The difference between Ishwara Koti means Ishwar type. So the difference between Ishwara is that he has the universal mind. And we have individual mind. That is the main difference. I'll quote some examples. I might have quoted several times. In Maharashtra, one person who was supposed to be Shivaji's Guru is not Shivaji's Guru, Samartha Ramdas Swami. Now in his young age, his name was Narayan. Because he is devotee of Ramdas Ramdas. Now one day, his mother could not find him. Where has he gone? She went about her friend's house and he was nowhere there. So about 40-45 minutes afterwards, she found him in the house, in a room behind an almirah. Boys go there out of sulking and like that. So she said, Narayan, what are you doing here? She said, Mother, I was thinking about the welfare of the world. Why? Why? Another example. Because from Ishwar Kotis itself, some are taken to be Ishwara Avatar. Bhagavan Buddha. He had absolutely no touch of sorrow in his life. He was the son of a king. And for him, we do air conditioning. It is only air cooling. His father built 3 palaces suitable for summer, winter, rainy season. And I don't need to shift from one to that. And the astrologers had said that he will either become a great king or a sannyasi. So his father wanted to preclude that. So he never allowed any sorrow to touch him. And he was married, had a beautiful, loving wife. He had a child also. But sometimes what happens, this type of life becomes boring, monotonous. So his father thought that today Buddha will go in a procession and instructed all the praja that They should decorate their houses, put buntings, and nobody should be with a sad face today. And he had a friend, his charioteer or his friend. So they are going in procession. One old man with stick in hand, he could not resist the temptation of seeing the procession. So he came. Now Buddha had never seen such a person. So he's asking his friend, what is this? He said, this old age. Who gets old? He said, everybody. Next day, a leper, Kushtarogi, came to see him. What is this? This leprosy. To whom it comes, to anybody it may come. That means he is seeing the misery in the universe. Next step, Yamaraj had not taken a holiday. So one man had died. And that tied him, and whatever chant was there, Ramnam or whatever they are doing. So what is this? This man is dead. Who died? Everybody died. Further, he saw one sannyasi. Different dress. What is this? He has experienced all this, so he has become like that. So Buddha saw for the first time that there is misery in the world. And then he could become absolutely restless. And he went away from his house for searching a solution to the misery in the world. He had no misery. Why? Mind is universal. Swami Vivekananda thinks of so many problems, what we feel. Every problem he feels, because his mind is universal. So this is called Ishwar Koti. Body individual, mind universal. Okay. And those who have come to accomplish some work, Saradananda Swami himself has told, they are called Adhikarik Purusha.
Anybody with such mind or anybody with such capacity is like of Ishwar Koti or Ishwar Koti.
No, this may be that or that may be this, but we know some examples like Bhavna, Purna. They did not do anything for the world. On the other hand, some of our monks argued with me, he did not give value to Leelaprasanga because Saradananda Swami is not mentioned as Ishwar Koti. So I had told him from mind point, Rishi, Saradananda Swami has said, I have not written anything which I have not experienced. One thing. Secondly, he was appointed for that. Swamiji said, Sharadvili is right. Mahapurush Maharaj also is not mentioned in that Ishwar Koti. And somebody asked him, Maharaj, your name is not there? He said, I was a Jeev Koti. Thakur made me Ishwar Koti. So, one should not give too much value to this Ishwar Koti. Apart from the fact that they have a universal mind. Now, Thakur's disciple say Mahapuruji. Suppose he did not have universal mind. But when he became Brahman, he became universal mind. So he said that I was a Jeev Koti, Thakur would be Ishwar Koti. And about Mahapuruji, what Thakur has said? His house is in the high regions of Shakti, from where name and form are born. So, anyway, so with this discussion we proceed that among the close devotees, some are Ishwar Kotis, some are the Adhikar, and comparing with that, now he's talking of Narendra. Comparing Narendra with those few men, one day he said to us, Naren is a lotus of 1,000 petals. while the other few are lotuses, no doubt. That means these special. But of 10, 15 or at most 20 petals only, not 20 and 100, not 20 and 1000. So incomparably great in a way. That is what Thakur is talking about, Narendra. He said on another occasion, so many men have come here, but no one else like Narendra has come. So highest, topmost, singularly. It was also seen that no one could so correctly understand. Now Saradananda is analyzing what is the meaning of this. That Narendra's buddhi in the spiritual sense was highest. It was also seen that no one could so correctly understand and express. So express and understand. As Narendra did, the import of the master's words. Import. That means every word has a meaning, but inside there are meaning. Implications are there. And that Narendra could dive deep and understand. Did the import of master's words and the extraordinary actions of his wonderful life. Master's actions are extraordinary. People do not understand them, but Narendra could understand the deep meaning in those actions, words and actions both. Hearing the master's word from Narendra, even at that time, we were astonished and were led to think, we also heard these words from the master, but could not understand that they had such deep meaning. So Saradananda Swamiji, including himself, said, we heard those words, but Narendra found much deeper meaning. In the beginning of the Guru Bhava, he had said to Harmohan Mitra that from every sentence of Thakur, basketfuls of books on philosophy can be written. And then Harmohan said, we do not understand. You take any sentence and explain. If Naren takes a sentence, then it will be a particular sentence. So Naren said, you take any sentence and I will explain. And we have read that for 3 days he explained that sentence. So this is what Narendra could fathom. An example showing Narendra's deep understanding of the master's words to serve Jiva as Shiva. That is the very basic creed of Ramakrishna mission. Now here, as Shiva, what is that? What is the meaning to serve Jiva as Shiva? Original Bengali Shiva Gyane Jiva Seva. Shiva Gyane mind you. We dilute it and make Shiva Bhavi Jiva Seva. Dilute means you don't have that Shiva Gyana. So keeping Shiva Bhav will get Shiva Gyana one day. So as Shiva means what? As Shiva is something like superimposition, assuming. I would not like this. To serve Jiva with the knowledge that they are Shiva. Several times you have seen this distinction. Knowledge is knowledge. Sometime in 1884, a friend of ours came to Dakshineshwar. But somewhere we comes, that means Saradananda Swamiji was present also, we feel, otherwise let us see. And found the master sitting in his room, surrounded by devotees. Narendra also was present there. Various spiritual talks, interspersed with merriment, were going on. That was Thakur's method. सदा लाभ एवं माझे माझे निर्दोष रंग रसेत कथा वार्ता चलित. There arose the topic of the Vaishnava religion in the course of the conversation. This is another important thing from Thakur's Sarva Dharma Samanvaya, that he used to discuss all religious sects. So he's talking about Vaishnavism. Vaishnava religion in the course of the conversation and explaining briefly the essence of that doctrine to all, the master said that doctrine teaches that one should always be careful to observe three things. Namely, a taste for God's name. Taste. They are not telling, go on doing japa. There should be a taste in that. Kindness to all beings. Bhute Daya. And the worship of Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas means those who are advanced, more advanced than us. So if we worship them, we get their qualities. Thakur himself is explaining that God is what the name is. Nam Nami Abhed. Knowing the non-difference between the name and the possessor of the name, one should always take his name with love and devotion. That means we are calling on God and we have love for God with devotion, not mechanically. So that is what Vaishnavas are teaching. Why two words are given? Love and devotion.
His name with love, prema bhakti.
Anuragar said, Nam Korive. Only one word is there. Understood? Anyway, so in English the expression, two expressions here. You see, in love may not be devotion. And devotion contains love, but sometimes it may not have. So two names are given.
Only devotion.
That is the translation's habit. That if they cannot express by one word, they use two words. Knowing the identity of the devotee and the divine, of the Vaishnava and Krishna, one should always respect, worship and salute holy men, the devotees. And one should have the conviction in one's heart that the whole universe belongs to Krishna. Therefore, compassion for all beings is what one should practice. Because the whole world is Bhagwan's. Now, in compassion, I have something which he does not have. So this ego is there.
Very subtle.
Anything, suppose he is poor, I am rich, he is poor. If he is not in good health, sickly, I am a good health. So always this is there. Otherwise, the positive part of it is that softness of the heart. That is necessary. No sooner had he uttered the words, compassion for all beings, then he suddenly went into ecstasy. He did not like that. So the mind recoiled and he went into samadhi. And in samadhi, he found something and came back. I think wherever this ecstasy is mentioned, samadhi itself should mention.
Mm.
Regaining partial normal consciousness in a short time, he continued, talk of compassion for beings. Will you, all little animals, bestow compassion on beings? Little animals. Kitanuketui, worms you are. So little animals. How animals can be little? Worms. You wretch, who are you to bestow it? No, no, not compassion to Jiva, but service to them as Shiva. Service to them, again we shall say that
With knowledge.
Shiva Jnane Jiva Seva. Same, with the knowledge that they are Shiva. Now everybody heard this. But Swami has based this on everything has been based on that. Narendra found a wonderful light in those words of the Master and explained it. So, understanding and expression. So, then we will also understand. That is Narendra's position. All went on listening to those words of the Master spoken in that ecstatic mood, but none could detect and understand their hidden import at that time. It was Narendra at that time, later on they understood through Narendra. It was Narendranath alone who, coming out of the room at the end of the Master's ecstasy, when Master was in Samadhi,
Yours.
this is the lower Samadhi. After talking, is still in Bhava Samadhi. At the end of the Master's ecstasy, said, some of our lecturers, our sadhus, once had said, immediately Naren came out. No. After that Thakur's ecstasy, he said, what a wonderful light have I got today. That means he was also surprised, but got it. Got it today from the Master's words. In synthesizing, Sammilita Korea, what could you say? Combining.
Combine.
You see, the synthesis is a particular word. Sometimes Narendra has used that. But what we know is Thakur's harmony. Harmony and synthesis are two different things. Who had tried synthesis, you know? Yogi Arvinda. He has written a book, The Synthesis of Yogas.
Yes.
And what is that synthesis? 1 hour Karma Yoga, 1 hour Bhakti Yoga. So they are four different things. And you have to give equal value to that. In harmony, somebody may be doing 5 minutes jnana and 23 hours karma. But there is no opposition in that. Jnana and karma are two forms of the same path, same reality. No equivalent many words are there. Our Congress, Indian National Congress, for they had a slogan, Sarva Dharma Samabha. How can all religions be equal? To whom they are equal, or whom there is no religion. For them all are equal. Thakur said, Jato mat tato pat. in combining the Vedantic knowledge, which was generally regarded as dry, austere, and even cruel. Yes, this is what Vedantic knowledge is taught.
Why cruel?
Dry. Dry means intellectual.
Dry,
Intellectual.
austere, we can understand. Why cruel?
Austere means you should practice austerity. You should not talk to people.
Yes.
And even cruel. That means you have seen Vedantis like that. They become ruthless. That means what happens to others, they are not careful about. Shuddha, Kathar or Nirmam?
Nirmam.
Nirmam.
Cruel is something.
Cruel is not a good translation.
Nirmam is
no mercy.
no mercy.
No,
No
no.
indeed.
Nirmama means no my feeling. That is actually the meaning.
No mindness.
No friendship or like that. No fellow feeling.
Fellow being, no fellow being, no mind. And M will be capital.
Now sometimes there are no words in other languages. Combining this Vedanta knowledge, which was supposed like that, with sweet devotion to the Lord. What a new, mellowed means of experiencing the truth has been revealed today. Mellowed. That means full of softness. One word we could have added there. I have seen monks within the mission, a sort of dislike for the world, hatred, grina, and that leads to disaster.
That is what Nirmam.
In order to attain the non-dual knowledge, we have been told so long, he's explaining those things, one should have to renounce the world and the company of men altogether. Birkat Mahatma. And retire to the forest and mercilessly uproot and throw away love, devotion, and other soft and tender emotions from the heart. Even today, the Vedantis don't like this devotion at all. When I said that Shankaracharya says, Moksha sadhana samagra bhakti vagari, I said they don't believe. I was in Coimbatore and Shankar's people from Trichy. Shrungeri Mutt has a club like that in Trichy. They came to invite the Coimbatore head. He told me, you go. One lady and one gentleman had come. So they asked me, what will you talk about? So I will talk about this. Moksha sadhana sarana bhakti vagari. We won't listen. People won't listen to that. Mercilessly uproot and throw away love, devotion, that is about God, and other soft and tender emotions from the heart, feelings from the heart. Formerly, when the aspirant tried to attain that knowledge, and that is one has to go to forest.
Yes.
Shankar says Vedanta is not for the householders. Householders also can read, but they will not benefit.
Yes.
Formerly, when the aspirant tried to attain that knowledge in the old way, He regarded the whole universe and each person in it as obstacles to the path of religion. That is their cruelty. And contracting therefore a hatred for them. Yes, that is the point. Now those things have become clear here. He more often than not went astray. Because these negative emotions, why should be there? He more often than not went astray. But from what the master in ecstasy said today, it is gathered that the Vedanta of the forest can be brought to human habitation. Vaner Vedanta Gare Antar. And that it can be applied in practice to the workaday world. In daily world, it can be made practical. On this point, I will tell you something. Some philosophers in Germany, on very flimsy grounds, they said that Swami Vivekananda had no idea of practical religion. I will tell their grounds also. No, he met Deussen. And from Deussen, he heard about Schopenhauer's ideas. After that, Swamiji's lectures on practical Vedanta. Does it mean that he did not know practical Vedanta? On this, he has written a book. And Swamiji's practical Vedanta lecture, somebody asked him a question. What is the practical place of Vedanta? Yes, and is a part of his series. So one person known to me wrote a thesis opposite to that. So I know this. So Swamiji's practical Vedanta is this. No Deussen or Schopenhauer comes there. Let man do everything he is doing. There is no harm in that. It is sufficient for him first to be fully convinced so that Gyan, that it is God who exists manifested before him as the universe and all the beings in it. That is, I tell you the other side, that God is Nirguna and Sat, transcendent, immanent. This immanence is not accepted by them. Immanence is something lower. Maya. Those with whom he comes in contact every moment of his life, whom he loves, respects and honors, and to him his sympathy and kindness flow, so both higher and lower, are all his parts, are all he himself. So part is a partial understanding, whole and part, he himself is there. If he can thus look upon all the persons of the world as Shiva, look upon as Shiva. How can there be an occasion for him to regard himself as superior to them? Or cherish anger and hatred for them? Kindness or anger, hatred, everything included. Or an arrogant attitude toward them, that is that kindness, sympathy. Yes, or to be even kind to them. So that kindness he brings last and all this. Thus, serving the Jiva, the Shiva, he will have his heart purified. And karma is for purification. So he has increased the scope of this karma, not yajna for deities only. And be convinced in a short time that he himself is also a part of God, the eternally pure, awake and free, and bliss absolute. So part is one step, then full. So karma has been turned into karma yoga. And karma as opposite to jnana has been turned into supportive or jnana. Now further, we get a great light on the path of devotion too from these words of the Master. Bhaktara, only in that image they worship. Until he sees God in all beings, the aspirant has not the remotest chance of realizing true transcendental devotion. If the devout aspirant serves the Jivas as Shiva or Narayana, here it is superfluous to say, will see God in all. Attain true devotion and have the aim of his life fulfilled in a short time. Swamiji has said this in Rameshwaram lecture, small lecture. The seat of orthodoxy it was. That those who see Shiva in that image only, their bhakti is preliminary. And when they see Shiva in all the beings, then only their bhakti is proper. Now the Maharaj of Ramnath, he got this engraved on the wall there. And then came this atheist paper, DMK and all that. They got it filled with metal because that was also fading. So they also like that. Now, two things I am telling. In old scriptures like Bhagavatam, this idea is there. That's one point. Secondly, in Maharashtra, there was a great householder said, Eknath, and the highest punya in those days. Even today, take Ganges water from Varanasi, take it to Rameshwaram and do Abhishekam there, and take the sand from that place and put it near Vishwanath. No, Eknath took the water in that shoulder, things are there in the cup, in that. And with his followers, he was crossing the desert of Rajputana. One donkey was dying of thirst, and he gave all the water to that donkey and said, Paramatma is satisfied. Again went back to Kashi and brought water and gave it to Rameshwar. And that is why this practical Vedanta of Swamiji was accepted in Maharashtra in no time. Yes. Those aspirants who adopt the path of action, karma. So the first is jnana, bhakti, now karma. Or that of concentration, rajoga. For the realization of God, we will also get much light from these words. Swamiji saw everything. For as embodied beings can never rest for a moment, karma everybody must do. Without doing work, it goes embodied beings. If we are beyond body, then it is different thing. It goes without saying that it is only the work of the service of Jiva, the Shiva, that should be performed, and action done in that spirit will enable them to reach the goal sooner than otherwise. If the Divine Lord, now concentration also will come. So that he has not described, but said in that path also. If the Divine Lord ever grants me an opportunity, I will proclaim everywhere in the world this wonderful truth. So practical Vedanta is very clear. The occasion for lecturing may be there. I will proclaim everywhere in the world this wonderful truth I have heard today. I will preach this truth to the learned and the ignorant, to the rich and the poor, to the Brahmins and the Chandalas. So this itself, his resolve came that day. Though he was still struggling to realize God. The extraordinary master always entered the realm of ecstasy in this way. So an example is that. And constantly brought wonderful light regarding knowledge, love, yoga, and karma to illumine the path of human life. But unfortunate as we were, we could not then comprehend the implication of his words. It was the supremely intelligent Narendranath who understood those divine words as far as it was humanly possible. Beyond that, if there are some meaning, then different things. And expressed from time to time their sublime significance to our amazement. So this has come as an example of Narendranath's spiritual intelligence. And that is harmony he preached. We enter chapter 12, the festival at Panihati. This is another turning point because, as Thakur said, he had visited Panihati previously, but not after the young Bengal came. So he wanted them to see that. And secondly, on the other side, this is the start of his throat disease. Panihati is a place on the bank of the Ganga, north of Calcutta. Narendra became a teacher. Now that connection of his poverty and all that. We have said before how Narendranath took refuge in the Master and how the Master blessed the family to be ever above suffering from want of plain food and clothing. Narendra's worldly circumstances changed gradually, thenceforward. And although they were not affluent, the family never again had to experience the sort of dire poverty they had experienced before. A branch of the Metropolitan School was opened at Champatala in Calcutta shortly after the event, and he was appointed the headmaster there through the kindness of Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Kindness all right, but who made it possible, you know? Master. And when the results were not good, they blamed Swamiji for that. Then Swamiji gave it up. But that time, that was some regular income. He worked as a teacher there for about 3 or 4 months, probably from the month of May of the year 1885. Probably, because exact date is not known to Saradananda Swamiji. The enmity of the kinsman, the master's inflammatory affection of the throat, Narendra's resigning from service. Three things in this para. And it was mentioned previously that those who grew with his father's cell became the enemies. Although the worldly circumstances of Narendra improved a little, he was harassed a great deal now on account of the enmity of his kinsman. They found an opportunity and occupied the best, now here translation I have to do, occupied the best houses and the best places of his ancestral property. His ancestral property did not spread to many houses. Best rooms, best portions of that, of rooms and other places, over and over like that. So let us see the Bengali and correct it. हाँ, समय बुझिया तारा पैतुक बीटा. Beta is one building. Uttam Gruh. Now, Gruh in Bengali does not mean houses. Ghar is room. Evam Sthan बोले, like veranda and other things. So let us correct it. Uttam, the best rooms and other best places. Rooms and other best places. of his ancestral property by hook or by crook. Some wrong proofs or something. He had therefore to leave his house for some time, that to go away, and live in his grandmother's at Ramkanu Musu's lane, opposite there. And in order to come by his just right, he issued a case in the High Court. So they occupied forcibly. Naren has to put the case and got everything settled. That is long afterwards. Nimai Charan Basu, an attorney and his father's friend, helped him much in this case. Now that he had to spend much time in looking after the case and preparing for the impending BL examination, we call that as LLB. In those days, it was called BL, Bachelor of Law. He had to resign his post of teachership 3 or 4 months only. After 3 or 4 months only. There was also a graver reason for it. The master was now attacked by an inflammatory affection of the throat, and as it increased gradually, Narendra felt the necessity of himself being present with him and making arrangements for the master's nursing treatment, etc. So case he is looking after, but mostly he is with the master. The master fell ill on account of taking too much ice. These days, that means in those days, ice was never pure. Seeing the master suffer from the excessive heat in the year 1885, the devotees requested him to use ice. Observing that he felt relieved by taking ice, many of them, when coming to Dakshineshwar, now began to bring it. So temporarily relieved, but it hurts. He too liked to take it with sugar drinks and made merry like a boy. But there started a pain in his throat when he had used it for a month or two. It was probably the month of April when he felt the pain for the first time. The disease increased when he talked much or was in Bhav Samadhi. Bhav Samadhi because the Kundalini comes up to the throat and crosses. And talking is the strain on the throat. And he won't give up these two. Because that was his life. Only living what he is doing.
Yes.
More than a month elapsed and the pain did not abate, and scarcely had the month of May come when the disease developed new symptoms. It increased when he spoke much or went into ecstasy. It was at first diagnosed as the inflammation of the pharynx due to the cold, and an ordinary plaster was prescribed from outside. But finding it inefficacious after a few days' use, a devotee called in Dr. Rakhala Bhavazar, who was known to be an expert in such diseases. The doctor diagnosed the disease and prescribed an unguent and medicine for applying outside and inside the throat. He asked us to see as far as possible that the master did not talk much for some days and did not often go into ecstasy. How can they see that? The story of the festival at Panya. This is one side, now Panya. The 13th day of the bright fortnight of the month of Jyeshtha was drawing near. No, no. Is it Bengali calculation or lunar calculation? In Bengali Jyeshtha, there is no Shukla Paksha Krishna Paksha. You know, Bengali Jyeshtha is solar. from Sankranti to Sankranti. And many parts of India, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra, UP, Gujarat, they go by lunar months. And in lunar months, we have the Shukla Paksha and the Krishna Paksha. So this should be the lunar or coinciding with the Bengali Jyeshta. 13th day of the bright fortnight, the month of Jyeshta was drawing near. Drawing near. That means Paniyati is going to describe. Paniyati festival is on the 13th Shukla Paksha. And that is lunar, clearly. An annual fair of the Vaishnava community is held on this day in the village of Paniyati on the Ganga, a few miles north of Calcutta. The story of the burning renunciation and detachment of Raghunath Das Goswami, one of the companions of the great Lord Chaitanya, is well known throughout Bengal. He is describing it here. Leaving behind a very beautiful wife and immense riches, Raghunath, the only son of his father, came to Shantipur, that is Advaita's place, to take refuge at the feet of Sri Chaitanya, who sent him back to await at home the ripening of the too incipient dispassion for worldly life. That means Markat Vairagya life, it is not yet fully ripe, so you wait again. Markat Vairagya. Footnote says Lok Dekhana Vairagya. Appearance of Vairagya. So here, too incipient dispassion for worldly life. Okay. In implicit obedience to this command of the great Lord, Raghunath returned home and keeping hidden in his heart the strong desire for renouncing the world, began helping his father and uncle in managing the property and other worldly matters. Although he acted thus, he could not do without seeing the companions of Sri Chaitanya now and then. He used to visit them with the permission of his father, pass a few days in their holy company, and return home. Father also had to allow because of this, otherwise he would go away. Days thus passed on. Raghunath spent his time in the world, biding his time for renouncing it. In course of time, Sri Gauranga was initiated into sannyasa and lived at Puri. Placed in charge of the preaching of the Vaishnava religion, Nityananda, his companion, made the village of Khadda, situated on the Ganga, the chief center of his work, and travelled far and wide to many places of Bengal, singing and preaching the name of God and initiating many people into that faith. Only once when Nityananda with his friends and disciples of the inner circle was staying and preaching at the village of Paniyati, Raghunath came to see him and was asked by him to feed him and the circle of devotees with flattened rice, curd, milk, sugar, plantain, etc. Raghunath was originally not from Paniyati.
No.
He came to Paniyati to meet him. Raghunath gladly consented and gave a sumptuous feast to the hundreds of people who had come to see the revered Nityananda on the bank of the Ganga on that occasion. When Raghunath went to bow down to Nityananda and take leave of him at the end of the festival, the latter embraced him in a partial trance and said, "The time is now ripe." If you now renounce the world and go to the great Lord at Puri, he will accept you and will place you under Sanatan Goswami for your training with a view to perfecting your spiritual life. Raghunath lived in joy at that command of Nityananda. He paid a short visit to his house and renounced the world forever. He arranged things in his house and went to Puri. Raghunath left the place, but in commemoration of this event, the Vaishnava devotees hold an annual fair in the village of Paniyati on the Ganga in the name of Gauranga and Nityananda with a view to having similar grace of the divine love. This afterwards came to be known to the devotees at the festival of the flattened rice and Puha Chuda. Okay, huh? Om Sarvadharma Stapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Acharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Jaya